And thank you, Loretta, for taking the time to join us today. I know we all have a lot to learn from you, so we know it's going to be an engaging presentation. I just want to thank everyone who's joining us today for this presentation. You know, the Westchester Biotech Project was envisioned and founded on the principle of, hey, we want to not only highlight research that's being done in and around the area, but we want to bring together all of the stakeholders to foster collaboration, but also to access resources and bring together whatever is needed to help move our total ecosystem forward. So today is just another great example of some of the resources that are available that we as the Westchester Biotech Project are proud to sort of bring and share, and hopefully folks today will learn a lot and have an opportunity to take advantage of some of these resources. So thank you all very much.
Thanks, Michael. We have really received terrific support from a wide community, and we have a lot of different programs, and I'm not going to get into any depth about them except to say that at Iona College on July 18th is our Rare Disease Symposium. This is a kickoff to really build a research hub as an environment where international researchers can come to the area, ultimately develop laboratories, and to be able to get into the US marketplace. We just really need to thank all of the folks that are helping us make such big plans possible, and we invite you to get involved. We do a lot of different programs, and some of them are much more broad. The one today is quite granular, and we think it's important to make this effective information available right from the source. So if you have ideas or questions, please feel free to be in touch with us. And as we go along, we're going to let Loretta do her presentation, and then if you'll put your questions in the chat box, we'll keep an eye on them and take care of them at the end. We have a nice small group, so we may actually invite people to open their microphones at some point, but we'll play it by ear. And I'm going to hand over now to Chris Kinzel, who is our Associate for Communication. And you may have received multiple emails with his name on them. He's actually in Washington State and is virtually making it possible for us to do a lot of the programs that we do. So there you go, Chris.
Cool. Thanks, Joanna, Michael. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us, Loretta. As you all are probably aware, Loretta Beine is the Life Science Industry Development Director for Empire State Development, which is New York's government development agency. She helps promote business investment and growth in the life science sector, which leads to job creation and prosperous communities across New York State. And if you guys aren't aware, Empire State Development helps companies grow through the efficient use of loans, grants, tax credits, real estate development, marketing, and other forms of assistance. So it's a wide variety of assistance available. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Loretta. Just let me know when you would like me to advance. And thanks again for joining us.
Okay, great. You can put it on to the next slide, which is basically the background of what you had just started to tell everybody about, what the agency does, that we're a government entity, and the way we work in the community and across the state. So again, my name is Loretta Beine, and I want to thank all you guys for being so nice and being so encouraging. And you know, like Joanne and I started speaking just a short while ago, and already I feel like I understand that you hit the ground running, and this is going to be a successful program and group with all the initiatives and energy behind you. So I wish you guys luck as we move forward. So today I'm going to speak about some of the programs that Empire State Development offers to industries, you know, across the state, but we're going to focus on the life sciences, which is pretty broad. So everything from medical devices to therapeutics, and even now we see a lot of companies coming into the state from even California and Palo Alto, using technology to advance science. So the first two programs that I'm going to focus on if you want to go to the next slide, and that just says Startup New York. And I can tell you how the Startup New York program works. So what it is, it's for businesses to grow and create jobs in New York State. On the next slide, I'll tell you how the program runs. So in order to participate in startup, business needs to be aligned with an academic mission of the college or university that is sponsoring them. So in Downstate in New York City, Long Island, and Westchester, you don't have to be a startup business. You don't have to be, you know, a new launch. You just need to be new to New York. So with that, that opens the door for a lot of different industries. And basically what we're trying to grow is the technology industries. We're trying to focus on bringing those to the state because of the great jobs multiplier that they have. And just because those are the kind of jobs of the future. So we want to make sure that New York is equipped with the businesses to do that. So if you go to the next slide, we'll see that there are a couple of downstate private colleges and universities. And it's different for downstate than upstate. And normally the state doesn't talk, you know, downstate versus upstate. They just say that there is a real difference. If you look at the broad landscape of the state, you can see the 10 regions are divided up in such particular distinctive personalities. Long Island is different from Buffalo, and then it's in some ways it's the same as Syracuse. And so I might as well just focus on that for a second, that Empire State Development runs 10 regional offices, and then they have a headquarters in Albany and a headquarters in New York City. And the regional offices represent what the regional needs are. So the originators in those offices go out and seek companies or respond to companies' requests for assistance. That could be in the form of an incentive or program assistance, technical assistance, help to find training, things like that. And then earlier you heard in my title, I work in the Strategic Business Division of Empire State Development. And what's different, I'm also an originator, but what's different from the regional offices is we focus specifically on an industry. So I'm in life sciences. I have a colleague that's in media and tech, another one that's in nano. So I work across the state. So lots of times you folks might be working with the regional office. Megan Taylor is the local regional director there, and she runs also the Regional Economic Development Councils, and she's a great resource. So now I'll just get back to what we were talking about, the Startup New York program, and what it is you can locate your business on a campus of a college or university that's enrolled in Startup New York, and then your business can operate tax-free for 10 years. So if you go to the next slide, there's some information about that. It tells you what taxes are being considered as a benefit for you. So in New York State, you would not be responsible for sales and use tax, real property transfer tax. And I guess this is more for New York City, the MCTD tax. But the thing that helps small companies that aren't maybe, you know, that are in the life sciences industry and don't really have a product yet, or they're not having a great tax liability, they can offer their employees tax-free personal income tax credit. So if you come to work for a company that is enrolled in Startup New York, and you're a net new job for that company, then you don't have to pay personal income tax for 10 years. So no matter how much salary you're making or what your tax liability would be, just not paying taxes, that's attractive. So we can go to the next slide and talk about how the tax-free area eliminates corporate entity level franchise tax. This is probably more technical than you guys want to hear about, but if we could just run through a couple of these slides while I just talk about the benefit for the company. So when companies are locating, one of the key things in this industry that I find in my position is that they're looking for a talented workforce. So having the tax benefit to the new employee will help attract that talented workforce. We know that the schools and universities in New York are helping to build on that idea also, and to be on a campus where innovation is happening, that just aligns with what the company is doing and wanting to be a part of. So that's why the governor launched the Startup New York program, and it seems to be working pretty well. Like I said earlier, that there is a sort of specific difference between what's happening upstate in the startup program and downstate in the startup program. The businesses down here that are locating tend to be sort of newer and attracted from out of state, where some of the companies upstate, maybe in Buffalo, or maybe they've been in an incubator and they're graduating out and they're moving into startup space so that they can run their business in the tax-free area. So that's sort of an overview of it, the program, and the way you get involved in that. That's up on the screen now. Or, you know, you'll have my contact information if those resources aren't working, or if you just have more questions. So the next program that I'm going to talk about behind Startup New York is the Excelsior Jobs program. So that's kind of our lead program. So what we do there is we meet with a company who might be wanting to expand or make a capital investment, create jobs. So we would respond, you know, ESD would respond to their project and do a cost-benefit analysis. So basically what we're doing is when we're giving away financial incentives, it's in reaction to what the project actually is. So if the company is going to create, you know, a certain number of jobs with a certain wage, like I said, the cost-benefit analysis will kind of spit out for us what incentive would be available to that company in response to the size and the scope of the project and the timeline and the industry. So I think that maybe on the next slide, it'll tell you a number of the industries. And the first grouping sort of are where we see some of the life sciences companies, of course, scientific R&D, but those other ones as well. Lots of times, you know, they're not just R&D companies that get benefits from Excelsior, they're actual manufacturing companies, or maybe a company is expanding their headquarters operation with marketing or back office jobs. So those are the categories, the strategic industries that are able to enroll in Startup New York. So, and you make that application by talking to an originator. So lots of times that would be me or somebody in your regional office if you're in life sciences. So on the next slide, it kind of tells you the guidelines for the program, that the grant is discretionary. It tells you a little bit about the formula that I tried to explain a few seconds ago, that we use a cost-benefit analysis. And there's one important caveat, the commissioner of Empire State Development. You could change the slide that says discretionary programs. So on the bottom there, it says commissioner, the Commissioner of Economic Development for ESD offers a discretionary sort of input. So if the story is not really a strong economic development story, but there's some reason why a company might have a public health benefit or something that makes it unique and attractive to establish and grow in New York, we could probably find ways to make it work and stay within the guidelines and the law. But, you know, it's not all just a formula is what I'm trying to say. We're trying to create jobs and to grow the ecosystem in this industry and, you know, across the state. So on the next slide, it describes to you why these tax credits are attractive for a company that doesn't maybe have a large tax liability. Maybe you're not selling a product yet. Maybe you're an R&D company, but they're refundable. So 100% of the tax credit that you're awarded, you'll get in cash, whether you have this tax liability or not. So some of the other states that we compete with when companies are expanding and they're deciding where they should locate in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, California, North Carolina, they all have economic development programs to entice you to come to their regions and their state. And one of the benefits that we have is in New York is that our Excelsior Jobs program is a refundable tax credit. So you don't have to, try and sell some of your tax credits like you do in New Jersey, or you get a full understanding of what the incentive will turn out to be as soon as you get our offer letter. So you're not trying to figure out, am I going to be able to sell these tax credits or something along those lines. So it helps with your planning and hiring and all the other things that come with moving or expanding your business. So on the next page, it gives you the link for the Excelsior tax credit program on our website, on the Empire State Development website. And there's a whole bunch of other programs there too that are available for a company to help expand their business by creating jobs or making a capital investment. But the reason why I spoke about Excelsior is it's kind of our go-to. It's the least cumbersome for the applicant, for the company. There's the least amount of paperwork. So we do have some economic development grant programs that are available to all size companies. And if you go to that link right there, the business programs, you'll see Excelsior and you'll see the grant programs. But like I said, I spoke more about Excelsior because it kind of aligns with what you guys are in the life sciences industry. It aligns with what you guys are looking for. And so you probably heard, I hope you heard, that the governor announced a $620 million investment towards the life sciences in New York State. So that's across the state and over time. So it's not going to be a one hit on anything, because what we're trying to do is look at the maybe weaknesses or the things that weren't done yet in the state and try to advance those initiatives so that we can come out, where we need to be. So maybe you guys don't look at it this way, but lots of times when folks are asking about the industry in New York State, they're comparing us to California or North Carolina or specifically Boston, Massachusetts. So we're a different area, but some of those spaces have a great sector because of their resources, the education, the schools, the innovation. And I think that New York has all of those things as well. And having this new initiative, this new funding resource is a way for us to, let the world know that by just getting out and talking about it on webinars and going to bio or whatever else we need to do to get the word out. And on the next slide, it kind of tells us it'll kind of tell you why New York State decided to push on this industry and put money into the life sciences initiative. And I think it's just a place where we can make a difference because of the number of hospitals and universities and the quality of hospitals and schools in New York State. And the businesses and the venture capital access, all of those things make us a great state for focusing on this industry and other technology industries. So the program is new, so there's not a lot that we can brag about just yet. There were a few initiatives, and I think it's on the next slide. It'll tell you where some of the money was allocated towards. So a lot of the money is still undecided. It's been designated for this purpose on an overall basis, but we didn't allocate all the programs yet. So we're taking it slow and for a reason, so that we don't, take this money and use it in the wrong ways or use it on the wrong things that aren't going to have a positive outcome. So I'm not going to read all of this stuff to you on this slide, but I'll just let you know that there's $100 million in the refundable R&D tax credits, which is similar to what we have in the Excelsior jobs program that we were talking about earlier. And the next one is an extension of the Excelsior jobs tax credit program. And it says here that the job requirement has been lowered to 5, but actually it should say that in this realm that there is no job requirement for this section. There's $100 million allocated for this section of the Excelsior program where a company could be just doing R&D and not creating jobs. So that's new to the program. And the next one is a private investment for venture capital, which is, I have a couple of slides on that next, but I'm not the expert in that area. We do have somebody else that works in, a few other people that work in that division, so I'm not going to focus
Loretta,
much on that.
I'm so sorry. This is Joanne. I apologize for interrupting you, but I think we had a little blip in the network here, and I think that was an important point. And I just want to ask you to repeat it or say more about it, because this is relevant for life science companies. That the Excelsior Jobs Program tax credit for life science, and you said the job creation has been lowered to 0.
For life sciences, you can still go into the jobs category in Excelsior. But yeah, it says on the slide that it's accommodating 5 new jobs, but there is a provision for a company that's not creating jobs. That it's just making an R&D investment or a capital investment. So the job requirement has been taken out of that slice of the program. So it's a reaction to what's happening in the industry. Life sciences doesn't create jobs at the rate of maybe a manufacturer. So that's some of the thoughtful ways that we're using this new fund to respond to what we've been hearing from businesses and from the industry overall.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure we heard that point, because it's just right up our alley. So I'm going to mute myself again, but thank you for that.
Okay. All right. And I guess we're talking about there have been other private investment from the venture capital fund, which existed in New York State in technology industries, but this $100 million has been allocated to specifically the life sciences industry. What we found that it was so much easier for folks to say, oh yeah, we'll do this, software initiative or this help with this other technology company, and life sciences or biotech or even a device company, it takes so much longer for it to come to the point where you're actually getting a return on your investment. So we figured if we put some allocation, this $100 million allocation specific to the industry, then we would start to see some good projects with venture capital from New York State. And again, we're not, sort of the lead investor. We'll just put in some seed money. And lots of times we find that when New York State is involved, then other venture capitalists will look at the company in a different light, in a more positive light. So I did have a couple more slides here about the venture capital program if you want to just leave those up while we talk a little bit, because it's specific. And like I said, it's run by another division at ASD because, in fact, the woman that works in the Downstate area, Sonia Galate, I meant to have her contact information on this page, but I didn't put it in there. I'm sorry. You can get that from me or Joanne. I know Joanne works with Sonia. So she's a PhD and she has been a researcher, and so she kind of understands what some of you guys are doing and why you're doing it. And she does have a vast network for a young woman. She has a vast network of relationships in the venture capital circles. So she would be a good person for you guys to get to know. One of the major, if you want to go to the next slide, guidelines is, like I said, it's seed money, and it's just not going to be the biggest investment. It's going to be, you know, we want to be, well, some of the statistics are up there on the slide. So, you know, I don't want to like promote what I understand the program to be because like it's so specific, but I'll just basically leave that up there for you to digest a little while. And I wanted to mention one more thing that slipped out. Oh, that to use this program, you need to have a New York State address. You could be anywhere in the state, but you have to be doing your R&D and you have to be operating out of New York State. So I know that's a lot of information, and I'm speaking in my own economic development language. So I know that's not a language that you guys speak in all the time. So if I used any shortcuts or acronyms and then you want to ask me questions about, I'd be happy to go over anything that we spoke about or other questions that you might have being part of this webinar.
Well, thank you, Loretta. That was really helpful. And we definitely are going to be inviting Sonia Galati to do a similar presentation. And you know, I've heard these programs discussed a few times, but it's nice to hear under the hood. If someone wants to learn more, do they contact you or do they contact their regional office? Who does it depend on where they are? How would they decide their first call?
Yeah, if you have a relationship with somebody in the regional office, you can just go directly there. But if you have questions overall about the industry or what is happening in the industry, maybe not even in your region, but if you're looking for maybe like-minded researchers, or if you're looking for some research from maybe a SUNY school, I could probably help align you with that person or make a connection for you and help you with the big picture. So like I said, if you have a relationship already with someone in the regional office, I guess that's the most logical thing, to follow that relationship. But if not, and your questions are broader, please feel free to call me and I can help out or link you up with whatever your company might be looking for.
Thank you. The other thing I wanted to ask you is, in one of your earlier slides, you had a note that there are 75, this was in the Startup New York program, the 75,000 square feet of vacant campus land. Did I see that right? It's does that mean
astonishing,
buildings?
Isn't it, right? Because everyone says that there's no life sciences space. So maybe that slide was somewhat misleading because it's all of the technology businesses that are eligible for Startup New York. But if you look on our website, which was, the link was up there, a lot of the downstate startup designated space are in life sciences. In Brooklyn, in New York City, and you guys know in your region, they just opened the Incubator that they're trying to designate life as Startup New York. So it's a simple application for the university that takes them maybe 2 months to be designated. So if there's something that you're looking for, you know, give us a call and we'll see if we could encourage some connectivity.
Thank you. We have a couple of questions in our comments here, and the first one is from one of our favorite Antonios. We know a bunch of them, but Antonio Molina Pashon. In the case of a small startup, I'm sorry, I have to scroll this, with strong R&D but no business history, no credit history, would any of these programs help finance buying production equipment, machinery, or machinery to manufacture an already developed product?
Yeah, actually, both of them would help out there. Both of the programs that I highlighted, but especially the Excelsior tax jobs program, which is the refundable tax credit, because you can get tax credit on the job growth that you're creating. And also New York State is near 0% tax for manufacturers. So that's throughout the entire state. Manufacturers have a 0 corporate income tax, and that's a benefit that other states don't carry either. and it helps you with the cost of, doing business here in New York. So yeah, we would definitely look at ways to incentivize you if you're going to create a manufacturing facility or manufacture for someone else, to pay for those jobs, to help you pay for those jobs. But there's also other, as of right benefits that you would probably be eligible for as a manufacturer. Does that make sense?
Oh, that's great. And another question from Dr. Molina is, can these programs be combined with SBIR and STTR programs? I would imagine so, because that's a separate funding mechanism and it's national, right?
It actually does align, but we don't have anything sort of on the books. Every year, a little behind the scenes here, every year the governor's office asks ESD originators for their ideas, to put in the new budget program for the next year. And we've been asking for that for a long time, aligning, some funding that goes behind the SBIR or STTR, so that companies that are already vetted by the federal agency, we don't have to do any of the research or understand why it would be a good investment. We could just step in where SBIR is working already. So it hasn't happened yet, but it is on the, I'm wearing out a lot of, using a lot of paper, sending that up to the governor's office as an idea, because some other states are doing it. We used to do it in New York State and it made sense. It's just things change as leadership changes. So.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And, we are not specifically an advocacy or lobbying organization. However, we do reach hundreds of researchers, engineers, and data scientists throughout the region. And if you thought it would be helpful either for a letter from us or from some of the people that are in our community, I think, we'd be happy to step up and just to say, we think this is a good idea, please keep it going. But I'll leave that in your capable hands if you'd like to follow up on that.
Okay.
And another question on, let's see, could any of these programs co-invest with private investors to create a VC fund to finance other startups in this area? So essentially fund, will the life, I guess it's a life science investment fund, will it fund a fund with other partners? Or does it want to make?
So that's what the venture capital fund does. There's a portion of it that is a fund funded by a group of funds. So I'm not really sure where we're going with that. That, like I said, there. Maybe I should even just mention Maria Mitchell's name, who is been hired to organize and run the Life Sciences Initiative, and she's putting together programs that, like I said, make sense for New York, what we might be lacking, what industry told us we're not doing right at all, things like that. So one of the first things that we did when we announced this fund was we put together a sort of research packet to identify the missing areas, how we could make the state better, and what the industry is looking for. And so that is available publicly right now. I just don't have the link for it because I think it went back for a few edits since it's come out. So Joanne, I could send that link to you if you wanted to share it with your membership, because it is a sort of an educational path down where we've been when you look at the history of New York State and the Pfizers and everything else that happened here, Cold Spring Harbor Labs. There's so much to talk about in our legacy that we wanted to make sure that that was going strong as we move ahead.
Wonderful. I'm really glad to hear that. Let's see, if someone's asking, is there an incubator in Westchester? And yes, there is. It's at New York Medical College, and it's called BioInc, BioInc. And it might be BioInc at @NYMC. And Mr. Peter, if you would like some help with making a connection there, I'd be happy to introduce you. We're good friends. We have another question here.
I think they just got a new sort of manager, Deborah
Novick. Yeah, she's doing a great job.
Right.
Yeah, we just announced our alliance partnership about 2 weeks ago. So
perfect. Great.
Let's see. So are consulting firms focusing on life sciences eligible for any of your programs? A great question. What about small investors, angel investors, startup funds focusing on life sciences? That's sort of two questions.
So yeah, those initiatives go alongside of what New York State is doing. So when we're looking at incentivizing businesses, you know, we'll look at what else is happening and that we have access to or information about. So we could loop companies in because, you know, your job is to do R&D or whatever your job is. So if we could be, you know, helpful in terms of some technical assistance or connectivity, that is, you know, that it sort of goes back to why they hired someone like Sonia Galate to work in the venture capital area, because of her experience, because of her relationships and whatnot. So yeah, so although we don't do those things specifically, we are tied to the areas that you know, we can connect people to. You said something before, Joanne, about not an advocacy agency, but New York Bio, which is a state chapter of the International Bio Organization, does do some advocacy. So if this group wanted to align with them and speak in one voice when it made sense to do so, you know, that would be another way to advance personal sort of initiatives to help the industry grow.
Lovely. Let's see. So that's all of our questions from our chat box. I encourage anybody, if you'd like to enter a question, now's a great time to do it. I really want to appreciate, Loretta, that, you know, there's, as in many situations in the whole life science pharma devices matrix, it's very hard to find the front door. So we appreciate your being willing to answer folks' questions, and we'll actually do a blog post about this session and share the recording, and we'll be posting the PDF of your slides, excuse me, and we'll be able to really make this available on a broader basis. And I want to thank you for that. I think Chris has some comments or questions he wants to make. Do you want to go ahead, Chris?
Hey, thanks. Yeah, I was just being patient. So two little questions. They're both probably relatively easy to answer. How competitive is your startup program? Or if you're a qualified applicant, are you pretty much kind of guaranteed a spot?
That is a good question, because I kind of use this analogy. All the startup locations have a different personality. So if you're going to apply, you know, in one region or at one school, you know, they have heavy requirements and they want to look at your maybe ability to pay rent and all of this stuff that goes along with locating somewhere. And then another startup location might be looking at, well, what is your science focused on? Can we help with that? You know, do we have resources in that area? Or so lots of times it's the space that you're looking at. I should say the school that you're looking at, if it has available space and it's fit out appropriately for what your needs are. So it's kind of like a, you know, it's a young program so far, and it probably has a long way to go before it's working like a machine. So it depends on where you're searching, what kind of business you're running, what you're looking for in a startup program.
Is there a
that
map
might not be the perfect?
Yeah, is there
Yeah, there is.
map?
There is a map on the web page. I think I had the link up there earlier, and there is actually you can search by region or you could search by industry. There's a couple of other search criteria, but that's the best way to find sort of what you're doing.
It would tell, like, at this college, there's this amount of space available, like that kind of granular.
Yeah, so it would. Yes, it does. It actually even gives the college plan for Startup New York. So if they maybe started in one area and the school is offering more classes in another area or certifications, because some of them are community colleges, Upstate, for instance. So if they're offering us maybe a cert, then they'll have that in their project plan for future years. So they're very well thought out plans, and they were designed by the individual schools so that they're the expert and they know what they were looking for. And then they got feedback from New York State, and this is where we stand. So
that's really great. I have one more tied into this, actually. So you keep mentioning the schools, and this kind of runs through those schools. So I'm assuming you guys have a relatively strong connection with the technology transfer departments within these universities, because it seems to me like that would be the best way to find those next companies. Awareness.
That would be a dream come true, but as you guys know, it is very difficult to get the technology transfer folks out of their office and to talk to you. I think that it's a lot easier these days. In recent years, I've seen a lot more folks available and doing panels and speaking, but yeah, if you have any way in, you can let me know. But yeah, I think that's something that we need to be focusing on, as groups and as the state, and just to make a difference so that it's not just, focused on what they already know. We need to let them know that we're here.
Yeah, make sure they're really aware of your programs, because, I mean, it's where all these technologies are coming from, right? A lot of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So one of the things they did when they launched Startup New York is they hired this amazing marketing person, and she stayed with us for about 3 years. And she went and encouraged all the schools and, told them how the program would benefit them. And, not that it's just, that they're putting real estate on their campus. It expanded the industry. It gave their students a way to have internships. So she went out and she kind of encouraged a lot of schools to apply. And we still have in the beginning, they were applying very quickly. I think we have 62 campuses, but they continue to apply, of course, at a slower pace now. But yeah, it continues to grow.
That's great. Yeah,
Fantastic.
something to work towards.
That sounds like something that we can really collaborate on, and certainly through different parts of the state, there's a different complexion to each of the models that are emerging, and appreciate that there's something to be done to really work together. We were at the conference last week that brought all the business incubators in the state together, and it was really a very warm meeting, and we've made a lot of friends with folks in Buffalo and Rochester and different places that are really doing some great work. And I'd like to remind everyone that so in Buffalo, it's quite active now, and they started in 2006 to really get serious, and so it takes some time to make these things happen. And so Loretta, I'm gonna wind us to a close. I feel like this has been a great conversation, and to note, and we have a note from Antonio Molina reminding everyone that there's a lot we can do at the Westchester Biotech Project to help make connections with a number of the universities. And we have a really wonderful advisory board that is available for questions and so on. And we really appreciate your role here, Loretta, and you're doing a great job. And I can hear it that there's a lot to do. There's a lot of opportunity, and actually figuring out how to make things work is the trick. So, and we're
all in this together. Like, we have similar initiatives that we want to see the industry grow. We want to see advancement. We want to see cures. So, yeah, I'm here, with you guys, rooting for you and hoping for success and looking for ways that I can contribute to that success. And thank you really for the opportunity to talk to folks and to get the word out about our programs, because, like I said earlier, you are just focused on what you're doing, and then, home life and everything else, and you don't even know what economic development is sometimes. So, it's good for us to have opportunities to speak to folks in different sectors and in different regions. So thank you.
Fantastic. Well, I think that's a great place to close. We'll be inviting you to stay involved with us, Loretta. We will be following up with everyone with some notes, and it takes us a few days to get the recording posted and so on, but within a week or so we'll have that done. Let's try to do it by the 4th, Chris. And I just want to thank everyone. Have a wonderful day. Take care.